Hello, my name is John Bannon, and I'm an attorney and philosopher. In today's video, I'm going to address the question of, is the brain the go-between immaterial and material physics? So, one argument that some people make is that consciousness collapses the immaterial wave function upon observation into a real measurement outcome. Therefore, consciousness must be immaterial in order to interface with an immaterial superposition under the wave function. So this is essentially a solution to the notorious measurement problem, which is you have this immaterial superposition of possible definite states in a wave function that collapses into a definite state upon observation or measurement. But the question is, how does an immaterial reality like superposition interface with a material reality of an observer such that a real measurement outcome can be produced from an immaterial reality? It's sort of like asking, how could an immaterial ghost close a door shut? Because a door is physical, but a ghost is immaterial. So there doesn't seem to be any way that a ghost could interface with a physical door in order to close it. So this is the problem of the measurement problem. So some people argue, well, the solution is consciousness. And they'll say that because consciousness is immaterial, it can interface with the immaterial superposition under the wave function. And because consciousness interfaces with the physical brain, the brain matter and brain particles, then that is what bridges the immaterial physics of superposition and the material physics of the real measurement outcome. So essentially, uh, because the consciousness appears to be immaterial and it is clearly located within a material brain, then it would seem that immaterial consciousness must interface with physical reality inside the physical brain. And then you could use that interface to interface with the superposition under the wave function and get your real outcome through the collapse of the wave function. Um, However, under Hansonian superdeterminism, consciousness cannot be an immaterial reality. Now, Hansonian superdeterminism can be found in the peer-reviewed physics journal Physics Essays, Volume 33, Number 2, June of 2020, pages 216 to 218, where Swedish theoretical physicist Dr. Johan Hansen proves that cause and effect in physics are not real. And because cause and effect in physics are not real, then uh, particles can't cause anything in the universe, which means that the universe has to be a static block universe. It has to be three dimensions of space and one hidden static dimension of time. And the reason is because if present events are incapable of causing future events, those future events nevertheless arrive, which means that they must already exist. And the only place they can exist is in a hidden static dimension of time. So Hansonian superdeterminism says that we live in this fourth dimensional block universe. It's full of particles. These particles don't move. You can't change them, and they're set like pebbles in concrete. However, they do create patterns through the static dimension of time, which we describe with our mathematical laws of physics. But an important implication of Hansonian superdeterminism is that consciousness has to be a physical reality. And the reason for this is if all the events in the block universe are predetermined and they already exist, so all present, past, future events are all equally real and they're all predetermined, then future events must already exist in the block universe and be predetermined. So, for example, if you consciously decide to move your arm, then because your arm is undeniably a physical reality, then that future movement of your arm must already exist in the future static dimension of time. But if that future arm movement already exists in the future static dimension of time, then your conscious decision to move your arm must also be predetermined in order for your arm movement to be predetermined. And the only thing that's physical where your consciousness is located is brain particles. So the physical brain particles must be predetermined to lead to a conscious decision to move your arm in the future, which means consciousness has to be derived from brain particles, which means consciousness has to be a physical reality and an aspect of the static block universe. Now, it's a mystery as to how an immaterial thing like consciousness can be a physical reality. It seems to be a contradiction. But under Hansonian superdeterminism, consciousness has to be a physical reality. Um, my best guess as to how that can be the case is if you look at the universe, the physical universe, it can be described by mathematical laws of physics. And math is logic. So the physical universe, the particles in the universe, appear to be logic. So in the brain, brain particles could be organized in such a way that they exhibit a different form of logic, a logic I call the logic of the possible. And because that logic of the possible is real, then it must have a reality in which it exists. And that reality we experience as our immaterial consciousness. However, consciousness still, even though it's derived from brain particles, it's still a physical reality because it's derived from the logic that's exhibited by physical brain particles. So it's an aspect of the physical universe. So, um, because consciousness must be a physical reality and an aspect of the physical block universe, then Hansonian superdeterminism shows that the brain and its consciousness are both physical realities. So, consciousness, being a physical reality, cannot interface with an immaterial uh, purported reality like a superposition under a wave function. Indeed, because consciousness is a physical reality that can't interface with an immaterial superposition. Uh, that shows you that the immaterial superposition isn't actually real. It's not. It's not an existential real thing. It's unobservable. You can't see it. There's no reason to believe it's actually real. Um, so, Hansonian superdeterminism proves that consciousness is actually a physical reality and aspect of the block universe, which means you can't use it to be your interface with superposition under the wave function in order to explain the measurement problem and the collapse of the wave function. All right, well, I hope you learned something, and I'll give you a second to read the board. So the answer to whether the brain is the go-between immaterial and material physics is clearly no. All right, until next time, take care.